Here we go, episode 106 of the Hardline Sports Talk. Michael Merlo, John Michael Masiri here with you. And JM, we have finally made it. We are a day away. Yeah. The week is here. The NFL is back. JM, besides from being overheated as I am, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We got the AC bumping in here, so I'm doing very well compared to some of the other times we've came here because it's been hot.
Yeah, it's been really hot in here. You took one for the team, though. Came early, turned the AC on for us.
Had to make sure it was going.
Yeah, because we would have died in here tonight.
Listen, football, we're here.
We're back.
It's the longest offseason, like, by far. And I know that it stays relevant because you have the NFL draft and you have free agency and you have training camp and everything like that. But it really does feel like forever in between seasons.
They do a great job, like you said, being relevant. There's really no off season, right? You know, right after the Super Bowl ends, it's like, all right, got like a few weeks, free agency hits, then you got the draft, and the draft is the biggest draft of any of the four major sports. Mm-hmm. So they really do a great job of staying relevant. But with actual play on the field, it's the longest. So it's fine. It's great to be back, and it's going to fly. Yep. I mean, I just started the fall semester. We both did. Like, it's gonna fly.
Oh, we're gonna be totally gonna fly.
We're gonna be at November, and we're gonna be like, where the hell did the time go?
Yeah. It already, like, you get to week one, and you're like, oh my god, finally it's here. And then at the same time, you're like, wow, it's here already. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but totally excited. Chiefs, Lions, and Arrowhead. That's where we're gonna start. That's where the league starts Thursday night on Amazon Prime. Quick shout out to Amazon Prime. I don't know why we're giving them a free ad, but either way,
me neither.
Obviously the big storyline right now is Travis Kelce, who has a hyperextended knee. He is questionable. I don't think he's going to play. We don't have an official word yet. It's Wednesday night right now. There's no official word on whether or not he's going to play, but he should not play in this game.
Right. I mean, the odds are certainly stacked against him. It's not a serious knee injury. There's no structural damage. There's no ACL and nothing like that to be concerned about. But it just seems like it's a matter of how badly bruised is that bone and how much pain can he tolerate. And to me, when you're especially at a position where you're going to be making cuts, where you're going to be running full speed and really testing out your knee every single day, to have a bad bruise like that, I don't think the pain is something that you could tolerate too good.
Not worth the risk. You know, the receivers for Kansas City, like, we know Kelce's the number one. He's probably been the number one since he's, rose to stardom over there with Mahomes. But he will figure it out, right? Like, I still think, and we're going to talk about the game, what we think is going to happen. Like, I still think the Chiefs, they're obviously still favored. They're obviously going to be still in a good position to win this game even without him. It's week one, right? Your ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl. You've lost some guys. You've lost some guys in this receiving core. And again, with Mahomes and this offense, you're not too worried about it. But to be out a long period of time to play week one, like, chill out, right. Travis. Yeah, chill 100%. Out, Andy Reid.
This is not a significant game. Yes, it's the first game of the season. You want to get off to a good start. But number one, it's week one. Number two, it's an out-of-conference opponent. There's not a divisional opponent. It's not even somebody in your conference. So this isn't exactly a game where if you drop it, you look back and you say, man, tiebreakers or whatever other reasons, that really killed us. And we know that the Chiefs are a capable team with or without Travis Kelce. Now, does Travis Kelce make them much better? Yes, he does. But are they still a at least playoff caliber team without Travis Kelce? Of course, they have Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be a playoff team no matter what. One thing I do really want to see, though, have we seen this Chiefs team without Travis Kelce? And before you answer that, if we did see them without Travis Kelce, did we see them without Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill? Because I don't think that we've seen that ever since Mahomes has been there. Like, I don't think that that's been a thing. I think at least one of those guys, obviously Hill's gone now, but I think at least one of those elite Hall of Fame caliber weapons was on the field for Patrick Mahomes. I'm really looking forward to see what this offense is going to look like without Kelce.
And that's an interesting point. I don't think we have. I mean, I can't remember any scenario. Did he miss a game last year, Kelce?
I do not believe he did, no.
I don't think so. If they win this game, right, and it's a high-scoring game, and even if Detroit keeps it close, which they absolutely should, and we'll get to them in a minute. Yeah. But the greatness of Patrick Mahomes without any legit number one wide receiver in this game will be put on display. And I don't know if you've seen his stats going around in the openers, But I think he's 5-0. He's thrown 18 touchdown passes and no interceptions in the openers. So if he's able to do, have one of those performances again, it'll just add to his greatness of being able to work with really whatever.
Yeah, he played. Kelce played all 17 games last year. I think one thing about the Chiefs and about Andy Reid is we talk about these receivers and we talk about how there's not really a clear number one. And yes, Kelce is the number one, but just from the wide receiver position, not number one option, number one wide receiver. They do not have one. And yes, Patrick Mahomes makes those guys better, and he's one of the very few guys in the league where he doesn't need a number one wide receiver to go out there and succeed. But I think Andy Reid deserves some sort of praise because they use a lot of wide receivers, a lot of guys that play different styles of football. I mean, you look around that roster, you got a guy like Justin Ross, who's a big body. You got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who's a burner, another tall receiver, but a burner. Kadarius Toney's more of that shifty type. So, they have plenty of other receivers on that roster who are going to get significant playing time for this team. The way that Andy Reid plays those guys and gets creative and gets the most out of their abilities to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have a number one receiver, I think it's something that's really underrated about his coaching style.
I always forget they have Kadarius Toney. Like, I'll still forget that they have Toney, and he's gonna be a guy. He's obviously a question mark. He can't stay healthy. My feelings on him as a Giants fan, but if he's healthy and he's productive in that offense, like you mentioned, with the way Andy Reid and that offense, that offensive coaching staff is able to scheme guys open, get guys in the right positions, yet Toney could be a big-time weapon for this team.
I was just going to say, I think obviously the gigantic question mark is the health. But Kadarius Toney, fully healthy, what we saw coming out of college and in his rookie season with the Giants, in the right situation with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes and fully healthy, this guy's got, for sure, like top 30 receiver potential.
Definitely.
So we'll see if the guy can stay on the field and how it stacks up. I mean, you got other guys like Sky Moore, and they've been talking about this guy Justin Ross, and I think the starters as of right now are Sky Moore and MVS. Those are like the two starting receivers. But Toney, I think, I'm not sure how they feel in the building, but from the outside looking in, I'd say he's the most talented guy in this receiver room.
Well, we'll see how they work this out tomorrow night. Very excited to watch this game, obviously. But on the other side, I'm very excited. And when they made the announcement that it was going to be Detroit, they had a few teams they could choose from, a couple of AFC teams. But Detroit kind of, was bursted onto the scene last season. They almost made the playoffs. They won that dramatic Sunday night game to knock Green Bay out in the last game of the year in 2022. Now they're on the, shining bright lights in Arrowhead. Not a ideal situation for a younger team with a veteran quarterback, but I'm very excited to watch this team in the way if they're going to show up in what is going to be a difficult environment to play in. Sure, no Kelce, but still, I think now the pressure is a little bit shifted towards them because, first of all, you were chosen to play in this game. The NFL thought you were worthy enough to go to the defending champs' home. Open the season, going to be one of the most watched games of the year. They thought you were worthy enough. That's number one. Right. And number two, now their best weapon is down. And they're without their best defensive player in Chris Jones. The expectation, I think, has changed in a lot of NFL fans' minds and a lot of people around the league. Maybe they should win this game. Maybe they should go into Kansas City and steal this one from the Chiefs.
Even if you are not going to say, okay, they should win this game, this should be a game, at least. Like, this should be a highly competitive football game that we're going to be watching on Thursday night. I think one of the major factors here is the Kansas City Chiefs' just whole swagger and aura. Like, yes, there's no Travis Kelce. There's no Chris Jones. But at the end of the day, you're walking into Arrowhead Stadium, which is, anyways, whether Patrick Mahomes is there or not, it is one of the most hostile environments to play in football. Tough place to play. Add the fact that this is the defending Super Bowl champions. This is the team that's won 2 Super Bowls in the past couple of years. So that is intimidating in just that fact. But I do think that the Lions have put together a good roster here, and we saw the success, especially in the second half of the year last year. This team can score the ball. They are an elite offense. They really have the potential to be top-notch, one of the top-notch offenses in the NFL.
Could be a top 5 offense.
100%. One thing we want to talk about here, I think the big question mark is Jared Goff do it again. Like, can Jared Goff do what he did, especially in the second half, which, by the way, that's no coincidence. Jared Goff had a great second half last year. The Detroit Lions had a great second half. We all know in this sport, you follow your quarterback. So can Jared Goff protect the ball? And I think that's all he really needs to do tomorrow. Now, this is coming out on Thursday morning, so tonight. But he just needs to protect the football. This is a guy who threw 0 interceptions in 324 consecutive pass attempts last year. Do I think he's going to do that again? No. But when you're on the road in a hostile environment like that, the number one thing you cannot do is give away the football.
Yeah, their offensive line is great. I think he'll have time. I don't think the Kansas City pass rush, again, without Chris Jones, is going to be able to do much against this offensive line. We know they have the weapons, and I want to bring up Jahmyr Gibbs for a second because I'm very excited to watch his debut. Even more so, out of any rookie this season, I'm excited to watch Jahmyr Gibbs just because of the hype we've heard around him from people around the league and people from Detroit. It's very interesting to see how they're going to use him because from what we're hearing and from what is being thrown out there, it's that he's going to almost revolutionize this position where he might be the reason why the problem with running backs not being paid could be solved with Jahmyr Gibbs and the way they're going to be able to use him because they've been talking about it since training camp opened up, that they are going to use him as a legit wide receiver, also as a running back. But playing behind that offensive line, he'll have the opportunity to run the ball, and there will be holes open for him all day. But as a receiver, if he could do what they're saying he's capable of doing, he may be the guy that saves the running back position and them getting paid what they believe they deserve to be paid.
Yeah, it's a good point. And that's the thing is we talk about Bijan Robinson all the time, but we know what Bijan Robinson is. Like, we know he's a stud, right? We know he's that 3-down back. We've seen the tape coming out of college. Like, he's just going to get the ball shoved down his throat. Jahmyr Gibbs is on a more exciting offense. Like, we expect more out of the Lions this year on the offensive side of the football. We expect them to be, a dual threat offense in terms of passing and running. And Jahmyr Gibbs is a bit of a question mark because we all knew Bijan Robinson was going to be a top 10 pick, right? Especially towards the end of the draft. Like, we knew all these rumors, all right, he's going to be a top 10 pick. If he's not a top 10 pick, he's at least the number 1 running back off the board. Jahmyr Gibbs was a guy that when he was picked number 12 overall, everybody said, whoa. Like, everybody was like, whoa, wait a minute. Holy crap. I was not expecting that. And I was one of those people. I did not see it coming at all. So I totally understand what you're saying. They're hyping it up a lot. Jahmyr Gibbs, I feel like, to Lions fans, is what DeAndre Swift should have been. You know what I mean? Like, that is what they were trying to get out of DeAndre Swift, a guy who could be a great pass catcher out of the backfield. Oh, 100%. That was Swift's, him and Jamal Williams last year. Jamal Williams was the guy who had all the touchdowns and was the short down running back and everything like that. But DeAndre Swift was supposed to be that high-level third down running back that could potentially turn into a bell cow, which is what they hoped he would be. Now, obviously, it didn't work out. Do they have plans for Jahmyr Gibbs to be a bell cow? No, but he is that perfect complement to David Montgomery, and he's going to be a guy who outsnaps David Montgomery, whether it's this year or in the future, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, very intrigued by Dan Campbell as well. I feel like he's just beloved by a lot of people in the NFL, and rightfully so. He's a great story. He's a interesting guy, to say the least, and I'm always pulling for him, and I'm pulling for the Lions big time. I like the Lions to keep this game close.
I really do think they have a legitimate shot. Like, I am going to heavily consider picking them tomorrow, money line. Like, they have...
Really?
Yes.
Win the game outright.
To win the game outright. Listen, what are the major red flags of the Lions after last year? Like, what were their big problems last season? The defense, right? And one of the biggest problems of their defense was the secondary. The secondary sucked. Like, to put it frank, it was not a good secondary.
Right.
They made that a major, major key this year to take care of. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Brian Branch, Cameron Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley. That's just to name a few, which is a ton of additions. But that's what they added to the secondary. And this guy, Brian Branch, is a guy that's getting a lot of buzz that he could be a very, very good player in the NFL. So I like the secondary. I think it's improved. And again, Chris Jones being out, I think that's a bigger deal than Kelce. I think Chris Jones being out is a bigger deal than Travis Kelce being out. We know that offense will still be productive. We know it's going to be good either way. They have Patrick Mahomes, but when you look at this Chiefs defense, there are some good players on the team. But the one who sticks out by far is Chris Jones. When he's not on the field, the Kansas City Chiefs, I looked this up, in his career, they're 4-3 without Chris Jones on the field, which is not bad. But for the Kansas City Chiefs to go 12-4 every year now,
not ideal.
It's not exactly on 12-4 pace. 364 yards allowed is what they give up when he is not on the field. When he is on the field, last year they gave up 328 yards a game. It's about a 35-yard difference. So doesn't sound like a lot, but that actually is a lot. Like you're talking about like maybe 5 spots in difference between yards allowed per game, anywhere from 5 to 10 spots based off 35 yards. So the defense is worse without Chris Jones. And what is the biggest thing we talk about with this Detroit Lions offense? Yes, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very good player. Yes, Jahmyr Gibbs is a very good player. This is one of, if not the best offensive line
in football.
So I think this Chiefs front is going to struggle. I think that's just what's going to happen. They're going to have a really tough time winning the battle line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and this dude's handing out burgers today in McDonald's. I mean, literally, there's a video of him, which is great, for charity, whatever. Yeah. But
should be playing football, though.
Should be playing football, should be suiting up tonight, but he's not going to be. And I don't know when he's going to. I guess week 8 would be, the soonest he would come back without a deal is week 8. But
it's going to be very soon. It is. I mean,
if they lose,
obviously, I don't even know if he could play if it happens like Thursday morning. But I think the Bosa signing now, like
that's what I was gonna say.
It applies pressure. Like, okay, he's the only guy out there still.
I'm interested to see what happens now if Bosa plays this week or not, because from what I read this morning, before the deal even got done, is that he's ready to play. Like the second the deal is signed, they agree to a deal, he's good to go. Right. Is he actually going to be good to go? Is he going to suit up and play in Pittsburgh on Sunday afternoon? Who the hell knows? But he is now the highest paid defensive player ever. 5 years. Was it $170 million?
Which is just an absurd number.
122 guaranteed. The highest paid defensive player ever, like I mentioned. And he had San Francisco, him and his agent had San Francisco up against the wall. They had absolutely no choice. The reigning defensive player of the year. Health-wise, last year, he was healthy. Just at the prime of his career, and he's one of the few guys that when you're negotiating, you overpay no matter what. Right. Because if he hit the open market, he would get whatever he was asking for.
100%.
He's one of those few guys. So they win. Obviously, you knew San Francisco was going to cave, and they finally do. And we'll talk about them in a little bit, San Francisco, when we do a little gambling show. But a lot of noise around them, and I don't like that starting the year.
Well, I think if Nick Bosa, let's say, isn't completely prepared for week 1, let's say, he hasn't been with the team, he's not 100% with the game plan or whatever other reasons there are, you still play Nick Bosa. Like a 90%, 80% of Nick Bosa is still better than a lot of guys in the National Football League, and I'm sure a lot of guys on your roster. Now, did the Niners overpay? Yes. Is it going to be one of those things where they look back and they're like, oh my God, like what do we do? No. Like Nick Bosa, the guy's a defensive player of the year. He's a once-in-a-generation type talent. By the way, we are in the golden age of defensive ends. Like, I don't think we realize, like, yes, there are always going to be elite defensive ends and elite pass rushers in the NFL. Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, like all these guys are like first ballot Hall of Famers, which is just crazy. TJ Watt out here almost broke Michael Strahan's sack record.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he had one more game, but still. 20 sacks is 20 sacks. He ended up with 22.
And wasn't it, didn't he like have like a half a sack or something? They didn't give him credit at the end in Baltimore that one season.
He should have gotten it. Like, he should be considered, I don't want to be that guy, but like he should be considered the sack leader, because did you ever see like Michael Strahan break the record? What happened?
No.
Brett Favre literally just laid down. Like, they just let him come free, and Brett Favre laid down and
gave
him the sack record.
Did he touch him?
I'm not trying to slight Michael Strahan. The guy was a phenomenal player.
Did he touch him down?
He deserves everything he got. But, okay.
It's a sack.
All right, relax, giant boy.
It's a sack, right?
Yeah. So, with the Niners, we talked about them a lot. It seems like we talk about them every single show.
Yeah, a lot of noise.
So. There's a lot of noise. They're one of the most interesting stories in football, because they're always great and they have an interesting quarterback situation. We all know about what happened with Trey Lance. they're going to have some tough decisions now to make in the future, though. I mean, I know we're in the age of the NFL where you restructure this, you restructure that, and it doesn't even seem like
there's no
salary cap
space.
exists.
I mean, no salary cap.
But you can only restructure so much. Like, there are guys on this team where you're just not going to be able to keep this roster the same forever. Like, everybody's going to want to get paid.
Which is very interesting because, you're going with a guy, the Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, his second year. And, I mean, I don't even want to – I feel like it doesn't even count, even though it does. He was in the NFC Championship game. It almost feels like it's Purdy's, rookie year, whatever. Yeah. It's weird. But you're going with a guy that is very inexperienced. And, like you mentioned, the window is, closing on them now because of how much – talent they've had and how much talent they've had to pay the past couple of years. So you're 100% right. A lot of noise from them. We'll discuss later very quickly two absolute studs, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson. They might be coming close to mega extensions. I know Burrow most likely will be the highest paid quarterback in the league. Maybe.
Yeah, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, for 5 minutes until they restructure Mahomes.
That's the thing about these quarterbacks is, yes, Joe Burrow will get a big deal, but in a year or two, you're going to look at it and be like, okay, normal contract.
Well, you know
Burrow.
what?
Like, it's not nothing crazy. He'll break a record, and then somebody will break his, and somebody will break that other record. The only guy who's not going to touch is Deshaun Watson. I still, to this day, will never understand how that happened.
You know what's very interesting, and I'll bring it to the Giants and even the Cowboys here. When Dak Prescott got $40 million a year, people were outraged, right? Remember that? Oh, my God, I can't believe Dak's a $40 million quarterback. And the same thing with Daniel Jones. Oh, my God, Daniel Jones is not a $40 million a year quarterback. And now you look at it with the contracts and where they're ranked in terms of quarterback salaries a year, it does not look that bad. These contracts don't look that bad because of how these quarterbacks are getting paid. It's like, wow, they moved down the list and you feel good. I'll never understand the Dak hate. The amount of Dak hate that and I'm again hate the Cowboys. The amount of Dak hate I've seen the past couple of weeks, outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
It's like an ongoing cycle with Dak. Fans will hate on – this is exactly what happens. Fans hate on Dak because he plays for the Cowboys, and people hate Cowboys fans, and they hate the Cowboys and this and that. Then Cowboys fans defend Dak like he's like their child.
Right.
Then Dak plays bad in a playoff game or
everybody
something
hates
else, and then the Cowboys fans destroy Dak, and then the cycle repeats the next year. They'll go in week one and say – Cowboys fans will say Dak Prescott's that guy and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's literally a never-ending cycle.
If Dak Prescott...
And I like Dak.
If Dak played for the Jaguars, right?
Oh,
people would be like, Dak's a good quarterback. Yeah. Dak's a really solid quarterback. You could win with Dak Prescott. Absolutely mind-boggling to me. Absolutely mind-boggling. To me, we'll see how big the contract for Burrow is. And Jefferson, I'm very interested to see how that looks.
He's number one by far. Like, he's going to break every receiver record in terms of contract.
I was talking to a Vikings fan, and
you know a Vikings fan?
Yes, and he's very pessimistic, and he said to me, he's like, I don't think they're re-signing him. How's he going to build his brand in Minnesota? He definitely doesn't want to stay here. And I could hear that. All right, maybe, but no, he's going to be a Viking most likely for life. He'll sign that contract. It'll be all good to go.
Well, yes. But no, at the same time. It's very tough in the NFL. It's not like baseball where you don't sign with your team and then you go out in free agency and get the bag from some other team. There are franchise tags. There are a lot of stuff that goes down, and it seems like you end up staying with your franchise forever. However, we've seen it happen before. I mean, Randy Moss was a legendary Vikings receiver, and then, boom, goes to the Patriots. So, could happen. One thing I want to ask you about this whole Jefferson thing.
Yeah, sure.
It's not a whole thing. It's not like the guy's
Is this what you wanted to propose to me?
No. No, not yet.
I'm excited.
Kirk Cousins. Is he going to take... You know how I said last week, I said this is Kirk's last year in Minnesota, and I believe that. I think Kirk Cousins is done after this. Is Kirk Cousins going to leave the Minnesota Vikings and go to some other team that doesn't have a receiver that's anywhere close to the caliber of Justin Jefferson is, going into a new situation, less receiver talent, whatever else? Is he just going to fall off a cliff? Or do you think that Kirk Cousins will still exceed as a quarterback at a top 12 to 14 level like he always has?
Probably not. I mean, he'll be
because that's something I like Kirk Cousins.
So do
I
I.
think he's a talented guy. I think he gets a lot of hate, and I mean, I don't think he deserves all the praise in the world either. But I think he's a solid guy.
At this point, it'll be 2 years. It's 2 years. It'll be
know what?
another full season. So
Yeah.
probably not.
You know what Kirk Cousins I think is completely comparable to is Matt Stafford was a guy who was beloved, and Matt Stafford's another guy, very talented, but he was beloved because everybody just felt bad for him.
Right.
Guy played for an awful team his whole career. All he had was Calvin Johnson. He played for the Detroit Lions. He never got an opportunity and this and that. Kirk Cousins played for Washington, was an underrated story, was backing up RG3. Then he goes to Minnesota, finally gets paid, and then everybody hates on him because, he got paid and there was expectations and stuff like that. But I think Kirk Cousins and Matt Stafford, when you look at it, I got to look at the numbers. I'm sure very similar careers. Now, I know Stafford was a little bit more of a gunslinger, a little more reckless with the ball, but also probably threw some more touchdowns. But, I mean, I'll pull it up right now. But
Stafford was probably better early on than Kirk was. I mean, again.
he caught on more.
I'm not discrediting Kirk and what he did. Again, great story. RG3 drafted the same draft as him. But definitely Stafford was more productive at the beginning of his career, had Calvin Johnson than I would say Kirk was. Kirk's done a great job, though. And I also have an interesting question for you now. When Kirk leaves, what happens to Justin Jefferson?
Well, that's the thing is, does he want to end up like a DeAndre Hopkins in Houston, or even DeAndre Hopkins up until now, where he just never found the quarterback?
You're like comparing the Vikings here to like some of the worst franchises in football.
No, I'm
not saying the Vikings are this bad. That's not what I'm trying to
say. I'm just saying the Vikings situation, like when Kirk leaves, like they don't have a young quarterback on the roster right now who's like ready to take over. This isn't Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers.
No, this will be a rebuild.
There's no one ready to take over, and I'm not. There is a possibility that Kirk Cousins goes back to Minnesota. I don't think he's going to. I don't even think that it's in their best interest to bring him back. I mean, the guy's going into his age 35 season now.
Right.
So if you're Justin Jefferson, you're going into your 4th year right now. In the 5th year of your career, the prime of a receiver's career, are you going to want to restart at quarterback and, the Vikings get some second-round quarterback or a late first-rounder or something like that? Is he willing to go through that?
Quick, what is the stats here?
Kirk's career passer rating is 97.8. Stafford's is 90.3, I believe. I should not have closed the tab on my computer. But Kirk also has a better touchdown-interception ratio. But
Kirk's been really good the last few years.
Stafford has more career touchdowns, but also Stafford came into the league a couple years earlier and wasn't a start. And Kirk wasn't a starter until his 3rd year. But I would say I'd slightly give the edge to Kirk Cousins over the course of their careers. I mean, he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring, but I'd give it to Kirk Cousins.
No more hate for Kirk Cousins. All right, let's move along here as we get ready for the season. Obviously, that's all that is, at least on my mind. Like, it's all I could think about. Let's do a little top 10 heading into the season. Obviously, using a lot of what we saw from last season, but also kind of projecting a little bit for the upcoming season. A little top 10 list of these teams. I mean, we gave you our predictions last week. It was long. It was very tiring. I spent a lot of time researching.
There was a lot of time spent.
All seriousness, like, it was a lot of time researching it, but give a little top 10 here as we head into the season. JM, why don't you start us off top 10?
All right. From 10 to 1. Number 10, the Jaguars. Number 9, the Chargers. Number 8, the Jets. Number 7, the 49ers. Number 6, the Bills. Number 5, the Cowboys. Number 4, the Bengals. Number 3, the Ravens. Number 2, the Chiefs. And number 1, the Eagles.
All righty. Top 10 here. 10 is the Seahawks. 9 is the Dolphins. 8 is the Bills. 7 is the Jets. 6 is the Cowboys. 5 is the 49ers. 4 is the Ravens. 3 is the Bengals. 2 is the Eagles. And 1 are the defending champs, Kansas City Chiefs. I think I used a little bit more of last season to do this than you did.
Well, I was going to say the opposite for you in the I was going to say the opposite for you in the bottom of your list at number 10 because I love the Seahawks.
Yes.
But just going off last season, the Seahawks do not deserve to be in the top 10. Now, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, so I do think that they're obviously going to crack the top 10 once the season starts, and as the season goes on, I think they're going to get better and better. but I probably have them at like number 11 or something like that.
And I like Miami, very high on Miami this year. I think they're winning the East. I had them at 9, and I had the Bills at 8. I'm respecting them from last season, being one of the top teams in the league, obviously, but not projecting a lot. And by the way, we saw another injury in that secondary. Like I said last week, the secondary has not stayed healthy. Micah Hyde might not even be playing on Monday night.
Yeah, they got some serious problems on defense right now in terms of health.
That's been the case. That was the case all season last year, though. Like, you know what? I don't understand. I don't like when we just sit here and give these teams credit. And I love Buffalo. I love Josh Allen. Like, I root for them. They're my second favorite team. If I had a second favorite team, it would be the Bills. If there were no more Giants, I'd root for the Bills. I don't like giving a team all of this credit and not doing anything.
Right.
They've done nothing.
And not for nothing. This division, like the past couple years, sure, the Patriots have been solid. They made the playoffs 2 years ago. Sure, the Dolphins had a nice year last year, got into the playoffs, but there really hasn't been too much competition in this division for the Buffalo Bills. I think this year, with the obvious that the New York Jets have Aaron Rodgers, that they have a defense that was top 5 last year, that a lot of people expect to be top 5 again, they're one team that's going to give the Bills a problem. They beat them last year. They kept it close on the road. The Dolphins are a team that, if they're healthy, they're supposed to be contending for a playoff spot or even beyond that. So, I mean, not in my opinion. I don't think they're going to be as great as you think, but they're definitely a talented football team. And, the Patriots are the Patriots. They're always just going to be like a little bit of a nick in the butt, and I mean, I don't see playoff potential for this team. But my point is, this division is not just some, okay, Bills, here you go, here's your AFC East title anymore. And when we talk about quarterbacks and we talk about legacy and we talk about Super Bowl rings and everything like that, Josh Allen is very early in his career and he has many years to go and get it. However, he's not going to have many more better teams than what he has right now. Yeah. And if he wants to add to that Hall of Fame resume for himself and he wants to really cement himself as the top of the top in the NFL in terms of the quarterback position, he's got to win a Super Bowl, at least come pretty damn close to it in these next year, 2, 3 years. Who knows how long this window is going to last for the Bills? Yeah,
and I feel like it's closing already. Yeah. Honest to God, I feel like the window's kind of closing a little bit already, especially with what the contracts they've had to hand out. Von Miller's being paid a lot of money.
I mean,
they brought him in here.
They're certainly not one of the younger teams in the league.
Not at all. Team that I would have loved to put on here was the Steelers. Just can't do it. Yep. I'm very high on the Steelers. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. I think Dallas is going to be the top seed in the NFC. But out of respect to the Niners and the Eagles and what they did last season, had them at 6. We talked about this before. I mean, we both are high on Dallas this year, and they'll end up being higher on this list.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the Dallas Cowboys have serious potential to win this division, which is, to me, almost like winning the NFC, because you have the Cowboys and the Eagles. I mean, right there, I have them as the 2 best teams in the NFC, just according to my rankings. Now, like I said before, I'm very high on the Seahawks. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl this year, but, I mean, those are the top 3 teams in the NFC right there, the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. So it's a very competitive division. The Giants aren't just going to roll over. The Commanders aren't just going to roll over. Also going to talk about them in a little bit. But I think that this Cowboys team, we talked about it time and time again, Dak Prescott has never had a situation like this in his career. He's had some really good situations. This looks like it's lining up to be the best.
Yeah, and by and far the best division in the NFC East. And you got the 2 top dogs in the division. I think this is going to be the 2 top teams. As much as I have talked about the 49ers and liking the 49ers, I'm not as high on them as I was, especially a few weeks ago. All right, a couple teams that we think are going to shock everybody, Jam.
You know what I hate? I just got the alert on my phone. On like the Yahoo Fantasy app, when you get an alert, do you have the thing on your phone where like the notifications, like you have to unlock your phone to see what the notification says?
Yeah.
So I always get like the Yahoo Fantasy alerts, and I think that like somebody on our team hit a home run.
Yeah.
And it's just like somebody picking up a player.
Some dumbass somebody. Brendan
just picking up like 4 players.
We're in a very high-stakes fantasy baseball league.
It's getting intense.
We're dwindling down. We're getting to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. We're very excited. But anyway, a couple teams that we think are going to shock the league this year. Obviously we gave out our predictions, but Jam, I'll let you start. I have a couple of teams that I not only shock the league. Like I think one will be like, oh, they'll be better than people think. And then another team, like if they got hot and had the right matchups in the playoffs, like a team that can win the Super Bowl.
So I basically tiered this. I have 3 teams written down. The first one is one that I think could be, a lot of people are just, I haven't seen anyone really pick them to make the playoffs, but I think that they could put together a good season and make the playoffs. Second team, I've seen some people picking the playoffs, but I could see them, making a run possibly. And then the third team, it's very hard for me to say this without saying the teams, but third team I think could really, really surprise people.
Okay.
I'll start at the bottom. So number 1 team that I think has a chance to shock the league is the Washington Commanders. Because, listen, what do we classify for some of these other teams like the Steelers or whoever else, the Patriots, teams over the years that they're going to be competitive? And the reason why we say it is because the defense is good. We believe in the coaching. It's just they seem like their floor isn't awful. And I feel like the Commanders' floor isn't awful. Even if Sam Howell plays at a level that is a Carson Wentz level like last year, the Commanders are still going to be in games. They're still going to be a competitive team that could go out there and still rip off 6 or 7 wins, no problem. But I think if Sam Howell plays average football, this could be a team that wins 9 games and sneak into the playoffs. I mean, why not? They have the roster, right? They have a good young defense. They have some really, that front 7 between Jonathan Allen and Darren Payne and Chase Young, and that's just to name a few. Like, they have a great front. And I think that their receivers are a very underrated duo in terms of around the league. I think that Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson have serious potential to be at least a top 10 duo in the league when it comes to receivers.
Yeah, no, the roster is good. You talk about the defensive front, you talk about the weapons. I like the weapons. They have 2 backs. I always like 2 backs. I don't believe in the coach. You talked about it. I think Ron Rivera is incredibly overrated. And I think Ron Rivera is 100% going to be the first coach fired this year. Like, no doubt about it.
I don't get that. I don't know why.
What has Rivera done? What has Rivera done?
He's gone to a Super Bowl.
Okay, besides going to the Super Bowl in 1 year.
Ron Rivera broke the whole stigma about how, you can't, with a running quarterback, you can't go to the Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl.
They had an elite defense.
And Cam Newton put together an MVP season.
They had a fantastic defense.
Yes, of course. You need a fantastic defense to get to the Super Bowl, or at least a good defense to get to the Super Bowl. They also had the MVP of the league, like I said.
Right. I'm not taking that season away from him.
This Commanders team, there has been a lot of stink around this team, especially with ownership and with the name of the team and all the drama that came with it.
He's gone through a lot. We talked about it last week.
And they've stayed afloat, and they've got some nice young pieces on this roster, and I think they got some serious potential. They have potential to be a playoff team, the Washington Commanders.
I can't.
I don't get the Ron Rivera the hate.
What have you done for me lately? He went to the playoffs as a 7-9 team.
How many guys around the league are going to go to Washington and take this team to the playoffs with Carson Wentz last year?
Okay, but again, we talk about Ron Rivera being such a great coach, such a one of the top coaches, not top coaches in the league, but a very respectable
he's
head
definitely
coach.
A respected guy.
He's a respected guy, but as a coach, I'm not lining up and saying I want to hire Ron Rivera. I think he's fired. You have a new owner. If they get off to a bad start, which is definitely possible, I think 100% the new owner is going to want to hire his own guy.
No, they're not going to want to. They're not going to do that, especially with a new young quarterback. You're really not going to give the guy a little bit of a chance.
If they get off to a bad start, he's gone.
I don't see
it's a new owner.
I really don't
Harris is going to want to hire his own guy. He's going to be out. I'm telling you.
The guy might be the opposite. You never know. He might come into this and say, "Hey, I'm a little scared to just pull the trigger right away. I'm a new owner. I don't want to be too drastic and scare the fans away and with these crazy decisions I'm making." And I think Ron Rivera's a guy who's liked by the fan base too.
If they start off 2-7, I don't know their schedule off the top of my head.
Yeah, at that point, it's not even starting off. Like, your season's just in the wraps. But
you don't think that owner's going to say, "Let's make a change"? I don't think the fans in Washington are going to go crazy about firing Ron Rivera.
I also think something I forgot to mention about this team. I think Bieniemy is a bigger deal than people are talking about. I think that Eric Bieniemy is going to get his respect this year.
As long as he's not too hard on the players.
Yeah, I hope they don't cry about it.
All right, one team, I'll do it in tiers too, I guess. One team that is just supposed to be bad, right? They're supposed to be a really bad team. I don't think they're going to be as bad. I'm not saying they're going to sneak into the playoffs.
Can I guess?
But if they won 7 games, I wouldn't be shocked.
This is the Buccaneers?
No.
Oh, okay.
But actually could say the same thing about them. The Houston Texans. Big fan, D'Amico Ryans. Big fan. Think he's going to be a really good head coach. Okay?
Gross.
Will Anderson, we talked about him last week when we did our projections for Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to have a major impact on that defense. I don't think the defense is going to be as bad. Singletary, he's coming back. He missed half the year last year. Listen, I'm not defending the pick.
Do me a favor. Think about the AFC and tell me where the Houston Texans are getting their 7 wins from.
I'm thinking about
they play in the weakest division in the league.
There we go.
So all their out of conference, all their out of division games are going to be against some tough opponents.
I'm gonna look up their schedule right now.
They're not going to beat the Jaguars twice. They maybe get a game out of them. They're not going to beat Tennessee. They're not going to beat Tennessee
Probably
twice.
sweep the Colts.
They might sweep the Colts.
So I'm getting 4 wins in the division. I got to find 3 more wins.
Might be tough to find.
Let's look at the schedule. No, I'm not going to look at the schedule.
We're not breaking down the Houston Texans schedule.
I do think the Texans can be stinky. I like Dameon Pierce a lot. They'll run the ball. And listen, a rookie quarterback, obviously, with C.J. Stroud.
There you go.
I think they're going to shock people. I don't think they're as far off as you think.
I think he's going to have a rough rookie season.
You think so?
Yeah.
Which one of these guys is going to be the bust? Because one of these 3 guys.
This is tough. See, you're putting me on the spot here, and I hate
this conversation
coming back because I've hit guys right on the head, and I've been so wrong about. Like Josh Rosen was a guy I was like, oh, he's gonna be great.
Yeah,
and he was like awful. If I had to bet on, we're just talking about Richardson. Will Levis doesn't count. We're just talking about Richardson,
the 3,
Young, and Stroud. I'm gonna go Stroud.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to go Stroud. And I'm not crazy about Richardson, but one thing I do like, and it might just be media propaganda and this and that, is there's a lot of talk about his work ethic and about that mentality that we see in like a Jalen Hurts and that we see in like a Joe Burrow and guys like that. He just has like that dog in him. That I like.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I do like that about Richardson, which is why I kind of don't want to pick him here and why I'm going to just sit out in the conversation.
Look, isn't that convenient? You get to bring it up, but you don't get to pick one.
Yeah, I really like I'm going to say Richardson because I do think that they may be in a position in a couple of years where, and Steichen I think is going to be a good head coach, good offensive coach, but if he struggles this year, which it does not look good weapons-wise especially, he might be in a difficult situation.
The thing I fear is just that situation. Like, is he going to be able to unlock his potential? Guy who's considered a project, like Anthony Richardson is.
I think Stroud will have a good foundation there,
right,
with D'Amico Ryans.
And the line is pretty good, too.
Yes.
So,
next team.
Moving on.
This is like middle
my
tier.
second-tier team, a team that I think could certainly make the playoffs, if not a conference championship, something significant, or win a playoff game. I'm going to steal it from you. It's the Steelers.
Yeah.
I really like the Steelers, and I wanted to get them in the playoffs last week when we did our predictions. It wasn't working. I was like, I got to put them in, but I couldn't take anybody out. But I could so see the Steelers competing for this division. I could see the Steelers, being a first wild card or just getting in the playoffs, because what do we love about the Steelers? We love that they never have a bad season. They're always in it. Mike Tomlin's a great head coach. They always have a tough defense. Those things all apply this year. That's still there. Now, second year of Kenny Pickett, he showed some promising signs last year. There were moments where, yes, he struggled immensely to get the ball in the end zone. That was the big thing, is he just couldn't score touchdowns. But we saw some really nice things. We saw some athletic ability out of him. So I think he's in a phenomenal situation. I think he's got underrated weapons around him. I think Deontay Johnson's a guy who deserves more respect. George Pickens is a guy who I know a lot of people, including yourself, are anticipating to have a good season.
Yep.
I like Pat Freiermuth. I think that Harris and Warren are a nice combo of running backs. And the offensive line is improving.
They've improved the offensive line.
So I think that this offense could be good, and I could see the Steelers returning to old Steelers form soon.
We'll talk about them in a minute. For me, I think my next team, middle tier, could see in the playoffs possibly. Talked about them. You hate them. Denver Broncos. Believer in Sean Payton.
Oh, my goodness.
Believer in Sean Payton.
There it is.
I think they're going to be better than people think. Shock the league. The defense, obviously, is solid. We've talked about the Broncos so much. I'm not going to go on and on.
You did give them like 9 wins.
About Denver. Yeah, I had them at 9 wins, just missing the playoffs. Believer in Russ
So tired
bouncing
of
back.
talking about
I know.
this
We've
team.
talked
Oh
about Denver
my
so much.
God,
That's
we've
it.
talked
I'm
about
done.
Denver way too much.
My next team,
What the?
because you just stole them, I'm going to
Okay,
go right ahead
cool.
of you. Pittsburgh, like you mentioned, I think Pittsburgh is in the playoffs, and I think Pittsburgh can seriously, in the right matchup, not being the Ravens or Chiefs in the first round, can win a playoff game and do some damage in the playoffs, because that's the way this team is built. Head coach, we love the head coach. Everybody loves the head coach. And like you mentioned, I think the offensive line being better this season will be the most important thing for Kenny Pickett, because we know the weapons are there. We saw it last year, Pickens in his rookie year. Johnson, veteran receiver. They'll get the ball in the end zone this year. They'll be really good. I think they can really seriously do damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like it. All right, my last team, I talked about them a lot.
Oh, yeah,
It's the Seattle Seahawks. They're not being talked about enough as a legit contender. I'll say it for the 4th time. I have them going to the Super Bowl. I think that Geno Smith this year, not only is Geno going to repeat what he did last year, I think he's going to seriously cement himself as a top 3 quarterback in the NFC. I think you're going to have Jalen Hurts, and then after that, I think Geno Smith might be number 2, maybe number 3. Who else is there? Dak. He's better. He's going to be better than Jared Goff. He's going to be better than Kirk. He'll be better than Fields.
Definitely better than Fields.
He'll be better than Purdy. I'm just thinking of all the contending teams right now. He'll be better than Derek Carr, Kyler Murray, Stafford. Daniel Jones. He is going to cement himself as a top 3 quarterback in the NFC. I really believe when you look at these throws that Geno Smith had last year, it was just ridiculous. I could see why a guy has a nice year like a Brock Purdy, because they're in a good situation and the offense was simplified for them and whatever. Geno Smith was making big time throws, and the arm talent is there. The arm strength that this guy has it's one of the best in the NFL, and it's what the Jets were anticipating to get out of him when they drafted him. And damn, I wish that he worked out for us, because we're happy we have Aaron Rodgers now, but this would have been a lot simpler if Geno Smith just turned out to be this 10 years ago.
A lot would have been different.
I love the weapons. I love the weapons. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Smith and Jigba, the running backs, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. It's just going to be one of the best running back duos in the league. The defense has young pieces on it. They got Bobby Wagner back. I am in love with this team.
Yeah, the one thing, and listen, I picked them to go far in the playoffs as well. The one thing that scares me with Seattle is their front. They don't have the pass rush, and that sort of worries me. And the offensive line, was kind of makeshift last year. It wasn't a problem last season, but
wasn't great either.
Right. So you hope the offensive line can keep him upright. You hope they're able to run the ball, which I think they will be able to run the ball still with the makeshift offensive line. But it's the pass rush for me. That's what kind of scares me. But I still think the weapons are good enough. You trust Pete Carroll. Geno was great last year. I think he'd be really good again.
Yeah.
So I'm all in. And the back end, right, with the corners, they add Witherspoon now. We've talked about them.
Yeah.
We like this team, and we think in a weak NFC, they might be able to pull off an upset or two.
100%.
Where do we want to go from here? That's the question. JM, you're going to see your Jets on Monday night.
Yes, I am.
Anything planned for what's the deal Sunday? Because, everybody's got their little, traditions, their things they do on Sunday. I'll tell you one thing right now, and I might get hate for this, especially from our friends. I'm used to being alone on Sundays, just watching. I don't plan on moving from my couch on Sunday.
I was that way for a really long time, and then I moved away to college and watched it with my buddies every Sunday and got used to it and liked being around people. Now, it depends if you're around the right people. People who just like to talk all day, and it's like, dude, can you shut up? I don't care about your fantasy football team. That's a different story. But Sunday. So I'm going to the game in Jersey. And my brother lives in Jersey, so I'm like, all right, maybe I'll go on Sunday to Jersey. But at the same time, I'm kind of like you. I'm like a traditionalist. I want to be on it has to be my couch.
Yeah.
It has to be my couch. I have to be watching the 1 o'clock games. I don't want to deal with any possible external factors that can mess it up. I got a wedding on Saturday night. I'm not trying to rush out. And I need to be more charged up for this. If I had football tryouts the next day or something like that. But we were talking about Sunday traditions. I came up with kind of a funny one, but it's true. My favorite football Sunday tradition is frantically changing my flex at 12:59.
Oh.
That is exactly, or like picking up a tight end because this guy's hurt us. That like I am the guy where a guy will be in my lineup the whole week, and I'm like, let's go, and then it'll be right around the corner, and I'm like, I have a bad feeling I switch it. That's my thing.
You're crazy. Just go with your gut. Go with what you thought.
That is my gut. My gut says, yo, idiot, it's 12:59. Switch it.
I can't. I'm locked in before 12:59. Maybe my bets are in place at, maybe they get placed at 12:59. No. But yeah, that's the other thing. Like, I'll watch we'll go out Thursday night, right? We'll go out for the Thursday night game. We'll watch that. Go whether it's the bar, restaurant, whatever we do, right? I can do that.
Right.
Monday night, I'm sure I'll be going out, watch the game with people. When it's all of those games together, it has to be the right. Yeah. It has to be the right group. So I just want to be unbothered. Watch Red Zone.
Okay, this is oddly specific, but all the listeners and the viewers, I really hope you know what I'm talking about because I feel like it's a universal thing. Do you know the feeling of like when it's like 5:30 or 6:30, somewhere in that range on Sunday, and like you haven't really like taken a shower or like moved much, and like you kind of ate like crap, and all of a sudden now like you start getting like the heat flashes or like just like the feeling of like, dude, like I have not moved. I feel disgusting like that. I am known for like the 4:25 window showering at halftime. Like that's like my thing. Like I have to feel some sort of like get up, shower. I'm sweating for some reason or like something weird's going on because my body's like, dude, you haven't moved.
I'll start sweating like I'm nervous. Like, oh my God, this is coming close. Like whether it's a bet or fantasy, I'm like,
right.
Or the Giants are playing, I'm moving it. Like, yeah, I don't shower, though. I'll use the bathroom. Like, I'll use the bathroom, like, right after the 1 o'clock game.
We literally...
But, like...
We literally sound like 80-year-olds that are, like, have walkers and can't feed ourselves. We're like... Yeah, I'll go to the bathroom or I'll maybe take a shower or something like that.
This is what Sunday's about. I cannot wait. I don't want to be bothered during the 1 o'clock games.
Like last Sunday, if you were sitting on your couch all day for 10 hours, you'd be like, I'm a lazy piece of crap. Like, what am I doing? Like, people would start yelling at you. Like, dude, get up. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, it's a beautiful day or this and that. No, there's a full-blown excuse to do absolutely nothing.
This Sunday, like, if you're not doing that, it's like, what the hell's going on with you?
Don't bother me, please. I'm not going to the store. I'm not doing anything.
No, right? I go grocery shopping with my mom because we have a big Sunday dinner every Sunday. And I went...
11:30. If you're going on a Sunday, it's got to be before 1 o'clock.
No, so we go like during the day. And I said to her, I was like, that's it. Like this is the last time until February. Yeah. Literally February, I will be going food shopping. So I'm pumped. What's the first meal? What meal are we thinking? Lunch.
Now you're making it complicated.
I don't know. See, that's like I've heard this discussion. Like, what's going to be the first meal? I can't have that discussion yet. Like, I can't talk about.
It's got to be. It's a day of.
It's a day of
kind of a thing.
It's a day of thing. Anything else we got?
Yeah, Caleb Williams.
Right, Caleb Williams. Let's discuss this because his dad made some very interesting comments about him potentially being drafted. All right, so Caleb Williams, his dad, basically said that his son doesn't have to come out next season. He'll just stay in college. And with NIL and the money that he's getting paid and being, in Southern California, playing for USC, he's living the dream right now as a college student. And we're going to talk about college students actually in a minute. But very interesting what his dad said. Basically, the draft is like a gift and a curse, basically, because, you're the number 1 overall pick and you're being paid the most money, but you're going to the worst situation. And that is not always a good thing for, the player being picked. And it could derail his career possibly.
Well, I wish I could go back at Caleb Williams' dad and say, what the hell is he talking about? But he's right. Like, I mean... You go to a situation, how many guys have we seen get drafted by these poor franchises.
You wanted to say dog bleep so bad.
And their careers just go down the drain.
You were about to say it too.
Yeah, keep PG.
Yeah.
We just see their careers go down the drain. I mean, it's. I'm gonna skip to the point. Okay. I have this proposal for you. Okay. This is what I teased before.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
I was thinking about it today, and I was like, okay, he's right. Like, these guys go to these bad situations,
right.
And, the NFL doesn't like what they see out of the Arizona Cardinals right now and out of some other teams that are just clearly not trying to compete this year, and they're going into a rebuild, or they're just tanking on purpose. And I think the Cardinals are making it pretty obvious they want the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I think the NFL needs to seriously reconsider the way the draft order works. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, the team that wins the Super Bowl should get the number 1 pick. That's just stupid. That should not happen. It gives teams an unfair advantage. The thing that I do think, though, you keep the playoffs the way it is, right? The team that comes in 20th, that loses the first, that was the lowest seed, that loses in the wildcard round, they should get the 20th pick.
Okay.
And the Super Bowl winner should get the 32nd overall pick.
Okay.
However,
talk about the other 19
the
teams.
19th team in the NFL should get the first overall pick. I think the first team that misses the playoffs should get the number 1 pick. You should take 19-1 and flip it. And I know it sounds a little crazy, but hear me out. Number 1, it encourages teams not to tank.
Right.
And number 2, every team, expanding on not trying to tank, every team's going to want to make the playoffs. And even if they don't make the playoffs, they'll get a higher pick. If you finish 14th worst in the NFL, you'll get the 5th overall pick or whatever the number will be. I mean, 14 out of 19, the 6th overall pick. So you work, you try to get into the playoffs as much as you can, because if you're in the playoffs, hey, that's a reward. I have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Oh, man, I missed the playoffs. I'm the first team out. Okay, we worked hard. We got the first overall pick. And if you're last, if you're the Arizona Cardinals or whoever, sorry, you're picking 19th.
It's not terrible.
I think that it'll be the NFL. I think you'd be surprised. They'd love it because it doesn't encourage. Now, would the owners give them lip about it? 100%. Is it ever going to happen? No, because things like this exist with owners and backlash and blah, blah, blah. But it's going to encourage every team to try to compete.
I like the idea a lot, and it's very well thought out, especially keeping the teams that made the playoffs, keep them with the same exact order. But the only thing I think it helps is kind of, the teams that would be tanking, right? Like, you're discrediting tanking. You do not want it to happen. So the Cardinals will not tank. So will they play Kyler Murray? Okay, they'll play Kyler Murray when he comes back, because I don't think he's going to play at all, even if he's healthy this season. And that kind of seems to be where they're moving. That's the direction they seem to be moving in. But I think it would help that in, like, the competitiveness of the league, but I don't know. It feels a little bit wrong, and I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say.
I know it
here.
feels wrong because it's like, okay,
you're gonna
if
keep
you
these
suck,
teams
if
bad.
you suck, like, you don't have a chance to get the number 1 pick. Like, that sucks. Like, you should have a top 3, top 5 pick if you're one of the worst teams in the NFL. I get it, but you know what else sucks is trading away Isaiah Simmons for nothing and cutting your starting quarterback and cutting DeAndre Hopkins and all this BS, these BS things that the Cardinals are doing right now, where they're clearly saying, we don't give a crap about, again, trying to keep PG. We don't give a crap about trying to win in 2023. We're just going to get rid of everybody and get the number 1 pick, and we'll draft Caleb Williams, or we'll trade the pick away, or who knows if Caleb Williams is going to come out because of what his dad said. But
let me say this. Maybe it also, there'll be more turnover in terms of the roster, where, let's say the Lions, who were the first team, I think, to miss the playoffs, let's just say they were, right? The Lions are the last team to miss the playoffs last year. The Lions would then most likely draft Caleb Williams, right? Mm-hmm. This season. It would be this season. They would have drafted Caleb Williams.
Right, now Goff's.
Now you got to move Goff.
Right.
So do one of those teams that have the would the second or third worst team in the league say, well, we want to be a little bit more competitive next year. Let's make this move, hopefully not give up a first-round pick, obviously, but try and make this move as best as possible. So now we have a quarterback to compete to get into that slot to possibly it's, you know what, JM? This is a good idea.
Yeah, I really don't think it's the one thing where it's like, it's just if you suck, like you could suck for a while. Like that's the
only thing you're scared
but
of.
Sorry, like
Be better.
yeah.
Hire the right people.
Go out, be aggressive. Like I think it'll just make teams very aggressive because now they're going to be more starving for the. Think about it. If you want the first pick like the Cardinals have right now, if I said, "Here's the shiny toy that's going to be the best toy you've ever had by far, and you're going to have this toy for as long as you can have it for," talking about Caleb Williams and the Arizona Cardinals. All you have to do to get this toy is suck. You're like, okay. Like, that's trying. It's just like getting fat versus getting skinny. Getting fat doesn't take much effort. It's pretty easy to get fat.
Yeah.
Getting skinny takes a lot of effort. So if you want to suck, if you're the Cardinals, it's going to be pretty easy. If you want to be good and get that number one pick, and like my idea I'm talking about right now, it's going to be pretty freaking hard.
And think about it. The Cardinals wouldn't have made these moves. Like you mentioned, they wouldn't have traded Isaiah Simmons away for nothing. They would have probably kept DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray would come back and start for them when he's
They
fully
would have
healthy.
signed somebody in free agency, anybody.
And they wouldn't have had
value.
they wouldn't have the first overall pick. Like they wouldn't be this bad. They wouldn't be a good team, but they'd have a higher draft pick in JM scenario to then say, well, you know what, we do want to kind of have a reset here.
Right.
Let's draft Caleb Williams. And then when you get the quarterback, and then it's kind of I was going to say you get the quarterback, and you kind of like you could drop off all those players, and you're kind of in the same situation where
you're gonna suck.
You're gonna suck,
Yeah.
but still.
So you're on board?
I would sign off on that, but you're right. The owners would not. That's a great point.
Very interested to hear what everybody else thinks.
I really like that. I think Caleb Williams' dad would like that. And by the way, I'm all for it, right? I mean, I'm all for Caleb Williams' dad saying, I don't want my son to go to the Arizona Cardinals. That's not a good situation for him in his career. And we've seen it happen a couple of times. You know, we saw early on John Elway. Nobody talks about that, by the way. We always bring up Eli. John Elway wouldn't play for, I think it was the Colts, the Baltimore Colts at the time. He did not want to play for them. He was going to go play baseball, which apparently was BS, that he wasn't actually going to go play baseball.
Right.
But he was going to go play. He was drafted, I think, by the Yankees, actually, too.
Right.
He was going to go play baseball.
The team that just won their fifth in a row.
Please.
8-2 in the West End. One game over 500. Don't look now.
Obviously, Eli. Peyton stayed in college one more year to not go to the Jets.
Yep.
Rumor has it.
Thanks, Peyton.
So we've seen guys do this, you know, especially if you're going to be the number one overall
And
pick.
now with the NIL, I mean, you're making money.
Right.
I just saw Caleb Williams in a Wendy's commercial yesterday.
He's making money.
He's making money.
And he's, by the way, he's legitimately the best. Travis Hunter might have something to say about this, but he's the best college player I've ever seen in my life.
He's fantastic.
He is absolutely unreal what he's
I'd
able
have
to
to
do
come
with the football.
back to you on that statement, but he's certainly up there.
Who? Tebow's up there, obviously.
Yeah, but like Tebow was just like fun. Tebow was great in college, but you knew in college like Tebow didn't have the arm. Like this guy's like got a freaking arm and he's fast.
You
Like,
know,
he's
but
just all around great. I mean, if we're talking college
college
players,
quarterback, college player.
All right, quarterback or player? We're getting complicated now. There's some
you're
really
right.
good college players.
Quarterback.
Yeah,
Best
Bo
college
Jackson,
quarterback.
Reggie Bush was fantastic. Like you get some
Best
really
college
good
quarterback. Like Vince Young is obviously going to be up there, and we're talking about best college quarterback. But
Johnny Manziel was pretty freaking good.
Johnny Manziel, Mariota was really good.
Great.
Winston was really good. Burrow had that really great year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Burrow is the best I've ever seen. I mean, the numbers, he threw 60 touchdowns.
Yeah, but it was one season.
Yeah, but it was a ridiculous season. We won the national championship game and threw for 400 yards and like 5 touchdowns.
Caleb Williams is going to have 2 insane seasons, where he's probably, again, unless Travis Hunter has something to say about it.
I said this to somebody the other day. If I was a Heisman voter, I would say, oh, okay. Week 1, you throw away every game that is against a not Power 5 team. And even if they are a Power 5 team, these like crappy like 4-8 teams, just show me the stats from your games against the Ohio States and the Alabamas and this like that and this and that. Caleb Williams out here playing Nevada, and who the hell? I don't even remember what the other team he played week 1 was. They were
San
awful.
Jose State.
San Jose State. Like
Cover.
What does that matter playing these teams where you're going to win 49-0?
Well, you got to play the teams in front of you, right? That's
Yeah, but I'm
number
saying,
one.
like,
number 2,
you could easily just pad your stats against these teams. Let me see what you do against these fantastic.
but nobody's
college programs.
playing anybody right now for the most part. I mean,
I know. That's what I'm
respect-
saying. That's why I'm saying the whole Heisman thing should. There's a reason why it's at the end of the season. There's a reason why it doesn't happen at the first 2 games. We play in all these random ass schools. Show me what you do against the best teams in the country.
And I respect LSU and Florida State for what they did. Scheduling tough out of conference games to start the year. They had the back-to-back years they played each other. But I mean, that's how most teams start. They start with a preseason. I mean, the college doesn't have preseasons. This is basically their preseason to start the year.
All right. Before we end, winner tomorrow or tonight in this instance.
I think the Chiefs are going to win close by a field goal. That's
Give me a score.
I'll go 26-23 Chiefs. Game-winning field goal late. Not much time left. I think Goff plays pretty good. I think, again, tight game, good game, and they'll go under, and we'll have Chiefs win.
27-24 Lions.
Wow. Very nice. Is that over? No, I think it's like 53.5. By the way, the Chiefs today posted the time of the game, the projected weather, and then a DraftKings logo, and the total with a picture of Patrick Mahomes. And it's so weird to see an NFL team actually post this on their social media. Imagine showing this to somebody 10 years ago, encouraging the gambling.
Yeah.
We're at an insane time.
But then the players get in trouble for it. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. And by the way, we're about to record it. Little NFL betting show that we're going to do. We're very excited. So that'll be out Friday or Saturday, over the weekend for sure. Yep. So check that out too. But a nice episode here, episode 106 in the books. Enjoy all the football.